Hi, I'm Dan Casenti. I'm a cognitive psychologist and a novelist. So I've been posting videos to YouTube about online dating. I've been really curious. Why is online dating getting such bad reviews and have such bad reputations when the idea is pretty simple, should be able to be done with ease, and it could better a lot of people's lives, so they'd be enthusiastic about it if they had a working app. So in my first 5 videos, and they're all linked in the description, I covered different psychological factors that they use to shake down their customers for more money while giving them worse results. Then in a follow-up video, I talked about what the ideal app would look like. Now, I didn't have time to cover one topic area in that video, so I'm going to cover that in this one. And that is compatibility matching. Compatibility matching is about trying to take two people's profiles and decide beforehand whether they would make a good couple or not. Now, I've told you that eHarmony claims they can do this, but they do a very bad job of it. In fact, there's doubt that they even have a method to do compatibility matching. Now, the question is eHarmony just incapable of doing compatibility matching, or are all the apps that try this going to follow suit in not being able to do it? So we're going to review the 4 different approaches to compatibility matching, and then I'll tell you whether scientifically tested validation studies show that it works or not. The first approach is to just get people's preferences. So have them list out, articulate what their preferences are, and then see if they match. Now, it isn't just forwards compatibility, so saying, does person B match person A's preferences, but also it has to be that person B's preferences match what person A represents. If it doesn't work both ways, then that's not a compatible match. So, social psychologists have tried this study. They had 2 phases to the experiment. First, they had their volunteers get interviewed and say what their red and green flags were, or what they didn't want in a relationship and what they did want. Then they had them do a type of speed dating in the next phase, where they would communicate with various people. And if those people matched their preferences, you would expect that they would rate the chances that that would form up a long-term relationship as higher when they matched their preferences than when they didn't. But it turns out that their scores had no relationship to their preferences. It doesn't work. So that brings us to approach 2. Maybe it's hard to articulate what your preferences are, but perhaps you could find out what their preferences are by monitoring their behavior. So while they're searching through profiles, look at who they liked, who they super liked, and how long they lingered on the profiles, because that would determine how much attention they were giving to that individual. So if you take in all that data and churn through it, you might be able to figure out what their preferences are without actually asking them. This is exactly what Hinge does. It uses deep reinforcement learning algorithms, which is a type of AI, to analyze all that data, and then they bring the people that they think are most similar to the ones that that person gave the most attention to. They would put them into their feed. So, how well does this work? Well, social psychologists can't really test this because, Hinge isn't going to release its data and offer their subscribers up as guinea pigs in the experiment, but it doesn't really matter. They don't need to test that. It turns out that most people focus more and spend more time with profiles of people that they find to be attractive. And it isn't so much about those higher level qualities like their interests, their hobbies, their values, all the things that might go into figuring out whether a long-term relationship would happen. That's not really where this data is coming from. It's more about physical attraction. And physical attraction isn't a great predictor of whether a long-term relationship would form up. So this is not gonna work. So you might say to yourself, okay, well, if that doesn't work, then maybe it is about something higher level, like people's values. So let's focus on that. This is the approach that OkCupid takes. They give everybody a personality test, do a mapping out of their values, and the people with the most compatible values to them are considered to be good, compatible matching. So they think that that would result in good long-term relationships chances. But it doesn't. Again, social psychologists would say this is not going to work. And there's very good reason for that. When your values match too much to somebody else, that relationship can get very stagnant because really you're just agreeing with each other all the time, or at least most of the time. You're not challenging one another, and there's no chance for growth in that relationship to consider alternative perspectives and try to incorporate them into your own. It can get stagnant and boring, methodical. Now, I'm not suggesting that opposites attract, the opposite mantra to, shared values are the best way to go, is going to be workable either. Imagine if you were opposite to somebody, you'd just be arguing all the time. Lots of conflict, incompatibility would arise from that. You want to be somewhere in the middle. And where in the middle? That's up to each individual. So it turns out that doesn't work either. The last approach is to just get a bunch of good social psychology minds into it. They have a lot of expertise. They try to put together a model to see what kinds of qualities of what types of factors would go best together and just form up a huge model and then test it. This has been done too. And it also fails. It's no better than chance for figuring out who would be a good compatible match. None of it works. Compatibility matching doesn't work. I hope that's not too disappointing to you, but it's not possible to do it. And unfortunately, the dating apps of today are about to change. They're going to get to the point where they are, well, at least they're trying to, incorporate more AI into their apps. Online dating companies themselves are saying that they need to do this. And particularly for doing compatibility matching. This is a terrible idea. Compatibility matching doesn't work when humans try to do it. Now take cold, hard algorithms that are just doing probability matching to come up with their results. There is no way that that's going to improve the chances of getting compatibility matching done. It's just going to hurt things. In addition, e-dating is already depersonalizing. I mean, the more you go in searching through profiles, the more you objectify the people on the other end, the less human they seem. You start to lose sight of the fact that there's a human being behind that profile trying to convey who they are. You lose sight of that in looking for compatible matches. It's a process that makes things more objectifying. Now imagine taking AI and inserting it into that process of trying to find connection. It's just going to make things worse. Especially when the online dating companies are also saying they're going to use AI to help people communicate with their potential matches, taking them even further out of that human process of trying to connect and relying on AI to essentially deceive the other person into thinking that that person is actually communicating with them. It's not great. Now, I want to leave you with two takeaway messages from this. First, we shouldn't trust the dating apps when they say that AI is going to fix everything. It certainly isn't. So that's the point I just made, and I want to emphasize that. That is not going to work. The second takeaway point is this. The best way to do compatibility matching isn't by trying to predict ahead of time through profiles who would be best matched with each other. It's meeting up in person. That's the secret to all of this. You have to be able to do that. So please don't linger on the chat when you're matching with somebody. If you go too long with that, you're never going to get to the next stage where you're actually trying to figure out if this person's compatible with you or not. It gets stagnant too. That person who you're trying to connect with is going to get tired of it after a while, of not making any plans to meet up with you, because we intuitively know that we have to meet up in order to continue to see if we're a compatible match. So it's not that compatibility matching can't be done, it just can't be done with profiles. You have to be the judge, and the other person sitting across from you has to be the judge. So ask that person to make plans with you, to meet up in person in a public space so that everyone's safe, protected by other people witnessing them around them. Now, I'd also suggest if they're not willing to meet in person, they still want to do like a video call beforehand, go ahead and do that. But really, it's the in-person interactions that work best in seeing if we can connect one with another. And just one other thing, in my previous video, I talked about how the ideal app would involve doing a type of compatibility matching that I already talked about. And it is trying to match people's preferences backwards and forwards. So I did want to address that because it sounds like there was a little bit of a contradiction there. With that property, I'm just using that to try to help people filter through an enormous amount of profiles so that they don't have to look through individually each one. I was not suggesting at that time that we'd be able to do compatibility matching that way. Since the best way to find out if you're a match with somebody is to meet them in person, preferences can help motivate you to want to go out and meet a person that matched your preferences. So it's a good way to filter, but also to get people to go out and meet each other. So I did want to make that clear. Well, that's the end of this video. If you like this video, if it resonated with you and you want other people to be able to benefit from this knowledge, please go ahead and click like, subscribe to the channel if you haven't. All of that will help the Google algorithm see that this video is resonating and it's helping people. So if you go ahead and do that, you'll be helping out others as well. Okay, well, thanks so much for watching till the end, and I hope this helped.